Welcome to First Down Sports, everybody. FDS CFL edition, Canadian football.
Episode 11.
Episode 11, Season 2. Sitting beside me, as always, Andy Jardine.
How's it going, Ray? Yo.
Good. I'm your host, Ray Dunn. Andy, before we get going here tonight, we've got to talk about some important stuff. If you are looking to have a beer on any night of the week, go out and get yourself some Moosehead. This stuff is scary good.
Very scary good.
Scary good.
This pale ale is great stuff.
Pale ale. I love the pale ale. We need to get more of this pale ale.
Yeah.
If you're a sports team, you need hats, shirts, jerseys, whatever the case may be, go to the Doyles.
The Doyles rule.
Doyles rule. And last but not least, Andy, if your kitchen sucks, what are you doing?
You quit your bitching, you fix your kitchen with some Done Right sauce.
Done Right sauce. Hopefully their sauce is better than their pens.
These pens suck, man.
These pens suck.
Yeah.
And apparently they didn't get them from the Doyles. And it
Clearly,
just goes to figures.
Clearly not. Clearly not, yeah.
Now, we have a special guest calling into the show tonight, Andy. Do we want to give a tease on who that special guest is now, or do we hold the tease till later?
I got a little tease for the listeners. Just stay tuned. After our game recaps, we're going to take this call from this person that may give us a lot of exciting news about the expansion, or a possible expansion, we should say, in Halifax. So stay tuned.
All I can tell you is that our tease likes to tease.
Correct.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some CFL football.
All right. Well, Ray, what an interesting week. It's kicked off with Hamilton visiting Saskatchewan, and everybody said, all right, there's no way Hamilton's not going to win this game. Saskatchewan's the worst team in the league. We both put them at the absolute bottom of our power rankings. And what happened in this game was really weird. I mean, at the end of the day, it was kind of I guess if you look at the score, it's kind of a boring game. Saskatchewan beats Hamilton 18-13. Now, before I get my thoughts on the game, I want to hear yours, because I know that your thoughts are probably a lot more harsher than mine. What did you think of the game? I know you were watching.
Yep.
We were tweeting. What's going on?
Before we even talk about Hamilton's game in this,
yeah,
what this head coach is doing in Saskatchewan, I've never seen it, I mean at any level. I'm talking pee-wee football, high school football, university football, CFL football. I've never seen the way he's running to a dual quarterback situation in a football game. It is a complete mind-boggling experience watching this.
What I take from it, Ray, is that he is so reluctant and refusing to admit that he's been doing things wrong, that he's just finding ways to think outside the box and get even crazier. I mean, the fact that Bridge came in, he gave him a series, pulls him, puts him back in. I mean, I don't know what's going on. I understand that Bridge didn't do anything to really convince him that he understood the offense and that he was going to the right places and everything, but you got to give this kid some time to sort things out, to figure it out. I mean, you signed him to be the future of the franchise, and you're not even giving him a chance to just work things out, especially when you're never once out of this game. Hamilton couldn't get in the end zone. So, yeah, I just think he's he just refuses to admit that he's wrong, and he's just finding new outside-the-box ways to look weird.
Here's the funny thing about the CFL. I think anybody would agree with me when I say that the CFL is a passing league.
Sure.
Would you say that?
Yeah, for sure.
What if I told you the total passing attempts by Saskatchewan in this game was under 20?
I mean, that would be surprising, but...
Especially with two quarterbacks playing in the game.
Yeah, it would be surprising, but not really for me, because I watched the game, and it was a really weird game. And what I'll tell you this, Ray, when you remove the score from it and just look at the box score and look at the team stats against each other, Hamilton mounted 429 yards of offense. They had 33 minutes time of possession. You would think, man, Hamilton destroyed them. Hamilton beat them handily, yet Hamilton, for whatever reason, could not get in the end zone. And I'm not overreacting to this. I am chalking this up to just one of those games where everything, when it came time to get into the end zone that could go wrong, went wrong. And that's really what I'm going to chalk it up to. And I'm also not going to overreact to Saskatchewan beating one of the best teams in the league, which I do believe Hamilton is. Hamilton needed one score, and Saskatchewan is not going to win this game. And the fact, if Hamilton really played offensive football the way that they can and actually got into the end zone as often as they usually do, it would have been an absolute blowout. So I'm not going to overreact either way.
Brandon Banks had more yards receiving with 113 yards than almost the entire Saskatchewan offense.
I know. It was a weird game.
And they lose this game. How does Jones not put Manziel in at some point in the game to get them into the end zone? Because I don't know why Mazzoli just couldn't get it done.
Yeah,
he couldn't get it done in the red zone.
But number one, there's no evidence that Manziel's going to be able to get it done in the red zone, and
you got to take a chance.
Yeah, but they probably just didn't think they needed to. I mean, this was one whole game where things were going wrong, and Mazzoli's as good at getting you in there as anybody else. So I think the Johnny talks are. I know you want Johnny playing next week when we're there.
Is it next week?
We're there next week.
Oh my goodness, it's right around the corner.
Next Thursday. We're in Hamilton.
Hold on here.
Yeah.
So you're saying we're recording Tuesday.
Yeah.
We got Thursday of this week.
Yeah.
Next Thursday, we're going to be in Hamilton.
For them coming off their bye week and a rematch against these Riders. That's what we're getting, Ray.
And they're on a bye week this week.
They're on a bye week.
How the hell's Mazzoli going to get hurt so that we can see Manziel?
Well, you're going to have to take care of that, I guess. Maybe we fly into Hamilton early. You're not going to see him.
Hashtag I am Tanya.
Yeah,
I am Tanya. All right, let's go.
Yeah, let's move on. Your favorite game of the week, Ottawa rolls into Montreal to face off against the Alouettes. I'm almost disappointed that it was only 28-18. Montreal managed to mount some offense at the end of the game. Mitchell, their quarterback that was playing, actually didn't look all that bad.
No.
Trevor Harris did anything he wanted. Powell did anything he wanted. Sinopoli had a huge game.
Except for the first quarter.
Yeah,
I will say the first quarter was a very bizarre. Ottawa just could not get things going in that first quarter. They did put some yards on the ball, they put some yards out, but they could not convert on anything. It always seemed like they were in second and long.
Yeah.
But once Harris got things going, 342 yards, 3 touchdowns. He showed what he's capable of doing in this league.
Yeah, and here's all I'll say is I'm not overreacting to this. I'm disappointed it was only 28-18 because Ottawa's defense is good. Montreal's offense is very suspect. But, Ray, Montreal's defense stinks, man. Stinks.
Yeah, but I will say this, though, Andy. When you look at the stats of this game, who are the number 2 wide receivers for Ottawa? Greg Ellingson and Deontay Spencer. Would you agree with that?
Sure.
Okay, so a combination of these guys, Ellington had 5 catches for 49 yards, no touchdowns. Spencer, 3 catches for 29 yards, no touchdowns. But this is where Ottawa's deep, and this is why I keep talking about all these wide receivers they have. Sinopoli catches 11 grabs for 148 yards and a touchdown, and that Noel Thomas, who I love from week 1 or week 2 of the actual season, he grabbed 6 catches for 56 yards and a touchdown as well. And then don't forget about Jean-Christophe Beaulieu. He puts up 50 yards with 2 catches and a touchdown. Yeah. These guys have a huge depth at wide receiver. And I'm telling you, if this team can get on a roll, they offensively, especially with Powell coming out of the backfield with 138 yards against Montreal, these guys are going to be tough to beat. I love them. I love them.
I can't argue with that, Ray. Nothing you just said after you finished that little rant really makes me feel any better about Montreal's defense that I just told you stinks.
I know, but what I'm saying is they did do a good job holding Ellingson and Spencer in check, but it's because of the depth on this roster. They couldn't stop. You can't stop 5 wide receivers out there.
I don't know that 8 combined receptions is really holding them down, but I think everybody on Ottawa that was hungry got to eat on this particular day, and the touchdowns just went to some of the more unlikely places. But Montreal stinks, man.
I have a quick theory here, Andy.
Oh, all right,
quick theory.
Let's hear it. And
the theory is this: in the off season, we spoke to Trevor Harris. Yeah. They came out and dominated in week 1.
They did.
That was week 2. Week Week 3, we didn't speak to Trevor Harris.
We didn't.
And they looked like garbage.
True.
We speak to them just before week 4. Yep. They come out and they dominate Montreal.
Yeah.
I feel a superstition's growing here, and I feel more calls coming in from Trevor Harris. That's all I'm going to say.
Fair enough. Let's move on to the next game, which was just garbage. Edmonton at Toronto.
Oh, my God.
Toronto wins this one 20-17. Edmonton, they couldn't run the ball. Mike Riley still put up some numbers, but they couldn't score. Toronto didn't really look great. They scored when they had to. I'm not, if I'm a Argos fan, I'm not super hopeful. And if I'm an Edmonton fan, I'm not panicking, but what a bad week.
All I can tell you is I watched a bit of this game.
Yeah.
Toronto fans, where the hell are you?
Yeah.
I mean, where the hell are you? I don't even know if there was 100 people there.
Did you hear the horn?
Yeah.
So there was somebody there that was just like, I heard that it wasn't a horn that he was blowing into, but he actually had like a windy thing, which is against the rules for CFL for you to have there. And he was letting that thing go the whole game and would not stop, just relentless. It was the only sound in the entire place. And I saw a funny tweet today that the 2 and Out CFL podcast actually responded to, but somebody, I think the CFL just said, like, what was your favorite moment, blah, 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 and they showed a bunch of stuff, and then this one guy, decides to get all mushy and say, my favorite moment was that moment that I got to ask my best friend to be my wife, and there was this picture of him proposing to his girlfriend. And 2 and Out CFL chime in and go, did she say yes? We couldn't hear. All we heard was that horn. So we're not sure. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Anyway, that game, I don't know about Franklin just yet, but we'll see. All right, final game of the week: 41-19 whooping by the Blue Bombers over the Lions. Man, Nichols barely had to do anything in his return. I'm going to give you a few things that I noticed in this game. VC stinks. Jennings just can't get back to form, though he's going to have some time. But Nichols didn't really. He's
not going to have time. They're hosting Winnipeg this week. I mean, they're right back with Winnipeg again.
Time to try again. But here's one thing that's bothering me a little bit. I like Andrew Harris in fantasy. Is Steve Strevler now going to be the touchdown vulture for CFL fantasy? Like, this is going to be a problem. If he gets the ball every time they're inside the 5, he's going to be a touchdown machine. He's actually going to cost more than Nichols. So I'm not real happy about that. What did you think of the game? Did you get any of it in? Or
I just caught a little bit of this game. I wanted to see how Matt Nichols looked, after his injury, and he did what he had to do. It wasn't over exciting, but he did what he had to do to make things happen. He put it up at 162 yards, threw for a touchdown, no interceptions. I think when you look at all these teams, okay, when we do our power rankings, and we talked about this at the beginning of the year, that Ottawa and Winnipeg could be easily the 2 teams that come out of the East and West. Mm-hmm. I think it's trending that way more and more as the season goes on.
Well, I'm not going to get that carried away, but sounds good, Ray. All right, let's get into some news. And to kick it off, we teased you. We got someone calling in, hopefully going to give us some super exciting news about the Halifax expansion. So here we go. We're going to take that call. Tune in.
Here we go. All right, guys, we, as we told you, we're going to have a call this show, and we are very lucky to have with us from a new podcast out of Halifax, Nova Scotia, the one and only Atlantic Zone Coverage, Greg Geddes. Welcome to First Down Sports, Greg.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So we got lots to talk about real quick, but first of all, before we get into that, let's just talk about your podcast right now. Tell me how you got started and, what your vision is getting up and going as a podcast.
Oh, the whole reason I kind of started it, I spent a lot of time listening to podcasts. I do a lot of driving for work, and I just subscribe to pretty much all of them. I got into your guys' a while back, and I just thought, hey, I kind of feel like CFL is not doing a great deal to market here, aside from the news. So I thought I have a part to play in trying to grow the fan interest in this league, and I thought, why not give it a shot? And I just went through the process of learning, and 4 episodes in, I'm feeling kind of comfortable now.
Well, all I have to tell you is this right off the bat, Andy. And Andy, I'm not even sure if you know this detail, but one thing I know about Greg, he knows his football. You know why?
Why is that?
He loves the CFL, and he's also...
Oh, no.
He's also...
No.
Yes. He's a Buffalo Bills fan.
Oh, well,
so, I mean, this guy knows his football.
Let me tell you something. We're going to talk some CFL news with Greg. And, Greg, just for the sake of you and Ray, I will not talk Shady McCoy news today. It's a little too soon.
Oh, no.
A little too soon.
It is very too soon.
Yeah, a little too soon.
But no one circles the wagons better
than the Buffalo Bills. There you go. Good job, Greg. Way to tee me up on that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, so listen, Greg, I get really annoyed with the lack of expansion news and how slow this is going. It feels like it's 6 months ago that Ray and I were down in Halifax to see Randy Ambrosi, and Ray was completely convinced we were getting an official announcement that day. I wasn't, but I'm a little annoyed with the lack of news since. There's been a little bit of coming out that to me has been totally non-news. But a story came out this week that I guess is significant, that they've narrowed down 2 possible sites finally, and it's Dartmouth Crossing, which to me I think is the best place for it, and then a place, Bayers Lake Business Park, which I'm not familiar with. Are you?
Yes, absolutely. I'm familiar with that area, and well, I'm gonna let's get Greg's opinion before I give you mine.
What do you think, Greg?
The only logical place it could be is Dartmouth Crossing. Bayers Lake is a pain in the butt to get from one end to the other.
Yeah,
traffic is brutal in that spot. So the nice thing about Dartmouth Crossing is they're still constantly expanding it. They have plenty of ways in and out of Dartmouth Crossing, so the people who are traveling to the stadium can get right off that highway from the airport. There's multiple ways in, and from what I've been reading and hearing from the guys, they want it to be a full day experience.
Yeah.
That really is the focus of Dartmouth Crossing. If you put that stadium there, they're going to be opening up a secondary, or I think it might actually be a third hotel in Dartmouth Crossing. Plus, there's 2 more just outside in Burnside. So it allows people to stay in the area, and where in Bayers Lake they don't have any hotels, just in Clayton Park. So that's another kind of main reason why I don't like Bayers Lake.
Now, that story, Greg, they only kind of alluded to Bayers Lake as they were speculating in the story. They had no confirmation that it was Dartmouth Crossing and Bayers Lake. They were just saying it's thought to be these 2. So you don't sound sold on Bayers Lake being a possibility whatsoever. So if you had to guess what that second location was, would you even be able to?
I think it does make sense for it to be Bayers Lake as the secondary or backup plan for the guys. There is lots of space. I was actually just going to post on Twitter a couple of pictures of what the area kind of looks like.
Nice.
But it needs a lot of work.
It would, and where I'm thinking, I'm pretty familiar with that area as well. You know, up on the hill, up where that go-kart place was, up in the Bayers Lake area, that indoor go-kart track. Like, I'm thinking that would probably be the area up there where they would look at building the stadium. But it's like you said, Bayers Lake can't handle the traffic they get just for the Costco there, let alone putting a CFL stadium in there.
Oh, man.
Yep.
And Costco is the perfect way to gauge traffic. Yeah.
Well, I'm just telling you.
No, I'm not. I'm not mocking you whatsoever. Yeah. I'll do anything not to go to Costco.
Costco traffic. I mean, you go there on a weekend, you can't even move in that area with the way they've got the traffic coming in and out.
Yeah. And that's the first turn off once you get into Bayers Lake is Costco. So, I mean, if that's any indication on how bad it is just for Costco, just add thousands and thousands of more cars for the stadium. And from my understanding, it would actually be not so much up by the go-karts, because there are a lot of businesses up in a little loop back there.
Yeah.
But if you know where the backside of Bears Lake is, they actually apparently they're building a new hospital there.
Okay.
And people were in an uproar about even putting a hospital up there because it's not near where people live.
Right.
So apparently in the back there is where they're looking at putting from my understanding, where they're looking to put the stadium.
Well, the other thing about Dartmouth Crossing is Dartmouth Crossing isn't really not that far from downtown Halifax.
Right.
You
No.
could, during a CFL weekend, they increased the bus traffic going back and forth between Dartmouth and Halifax. You could arrive to Halifax on a Friday night before a Saturday night game, get on a bus, head downtown Halifax, have your dinner, have your drinks downtown,
Sure.
and be back in Dartmouth, near the stadium for the game.
Yep.
Or vice versa, stay in Halifax and take the bus to Dartmouth for the game.
Well, it's not just Halifax either, Ray. Like, think about us too. Like, we're going to go down for
Exactly.
those games, and though it's not the world's shortest drive, I mean, driving into Dartmouth Crossing, getting in there for the game, and then getting the heck out of there and coming back is really convenient compared to some of the alternatives, right?
Yeah.
So.
The other interesting thing that I found real interesting about this article that did come out is for this meeting with the CFL, they were actually at the they met with the CFL in Winnipeg. So it wasn't one of these video conferences calls. The Maritime Football Group was in Winnipeg for this meeting where they disclosed this location. I thought that was very interesting.
All right, Greg, you were just out in Montreal for a trip. You went and you took in a game, and now you're getting back into the swing of things for your podcast. And I listened to your last episode, and you mentioned that you might be changing up the format a little bit to focus even more on the expansion. Before I ask you this next question, why don't you highlight that a little bit? What are your plans? What are you looking to do?
So I just feel so good about this whole expansion thing. So I wanted to just more discuss all the topics surrounding what goes into expansion. So team names, maybe slogans, potential general managers, potential coaches, stuff like that. And I'm pretty excited about. I have a segment, a new segment I'm going to be putting in there called Old Greg, and you'll have to listen to the first episode to see what I'm going to do with that one. So.
Awesome. And listen, speaking of logos and stuff, do you know the person personally that put out that Twitter account that was teasing all the logos and the uniform colors, that even the group in the CFL even had to come out and say, like, we don't know this person?
I do not know them, but I mean, to be honest, they seem actually like pretty good guys. I know there was some uproar about one of the logos that they came up with, but I do truly feel like their intentions were pure, and they were not thinking maliciously when they were coming up with that one logo for the explosion.
Definitely not. And you know what? It was all the logos that were not the Schooners that I was offended by. Like, I don't even know why people are even bothering with this. They're the Schooners, and if they're not the Schooners, I'm gonna be very upset. Ray, before I ask him the big question,
Maritime Marauders.
So, listen, before I ask him the big question here, Ray, there was another part of the meeting that you thought was super interesting.
Yes, absolutely. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was the fact that the other part of their plan is to do a ticket drive before the team is even in existence.
Right.
So that way you can start gauging how many season ticket holders you have.
Of course, you got to do
right off the bat. And the Vegas Knights did that. Seattle is doing that now for the NHL. Mm-hmm. I think it's important that HRM does that, because when this, especially when they're in the talks about the stadium contract. Well, I mean, if you have no season tickets in front of you, it's tough for the city to pony up and get in on this.
Yeah.
But if it's 20,000 seat stadium,
yeah,
and they sell 12,000 tickets before the team's even in existence,
yeah,
I think that helps get a city on board as far as the budget goes.
You agree with that, Greg?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It only makes sense to do a season ticket drive. I'm just surprised at how long it's taken to get to this point. I think it could have been done pretty shortly after Randy's Roadshow. And it probably would have been smarter too, because everyone was so excited about that potential. So I thought that should have been the initial startup for that.
I agree. All right, so listen, let's.
I have one question. I have one follow-up question.
All right, go ahead.
Season tickets go on sale tomorrow. Who's lining up to get tickets first? First Down Sports or Atlantic Zone Coverage?
Well, I mean, he's got the advantage probably.
He can get an actual line.
Yeah.
Are we driving up the night before? Like, are we standing in line, Andy, at the ticket shop? Like, are we going to drive to Halifax, or are we just buying them online?
Well, I mean, buying them online is probably the best way to do it if we don't have to go down there. But, yeah, I'd be willing to go down. Why not? That'd be fun. All right, Greg, listen.
I'll see you in line then.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, yeah.
There you go. Listen, I listened to your last episode, and there was a segment on there where, and I'm going to paraphrase, this isn't a direct quote, but you said something along the lines of, I know this is going to happen. Wait, no, I don't know this is going to happen. There's nothing that I know for sure. However, there's a particular date in July that you should tune in because I may have more to tell you. You were trying very desperately not to tell me something while I was listening to your last episode. So I'm going to give you the opportunity right now on First Down Sports.
Drop it.
Break some big-time news or tease the hell out of our listeners.
Drop it.
What do you got to tell us about?
What do you got?
Yep.
Drop it.
So I have a little contact who may have had a sit-down meeting with one of the counselors with the HRM City Council, and he upright asked about the stadium. And I don't know if I can really say much else after that, but you'll have to tune into our next episode, hopefully.
So what you just told me there, without saying any of these words, is that you were incredibly encouraged by the information that you received that you're not willing to share with us at the moment. I get it.
Absolutely.
There we go.
All right, there you go.
Greg, thanks for calling in, man, and thanks for all your support. Thanks for listening. We're listening back. Thanks for being a part of our CFL Fantasy League and beating the hell out of us. But I'm coming.
Yes.
But I'm coming. So
who the hell do you
I'll
think
wait
you
for
are,
you at the
Greg?
top.
Yeah. Well,
It's a good thing he's a Bills fan. It's a good thing he's a Bills fan.
Exactly.
all right. Have a good one, man.
Thanks,
Hopefully you don't get called into work, but if you do, well, best of luck.
Oh, well, I'll be late. Thanks again for having me on, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, Greg.
Later, man.
See you guys.
All right, Andy, that was Greg Geddes from the Atlantic Zone Coverage podcast.
Man, he wanted to tell us something, Ray, and he did.
He was on the verge. He was on the verge.
You know,
you got to drop it. You had to let it drop.
You know, when I can read his mind and just say, this is what you just said without saying anything, and his response was absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's out there. All right, so I feel like we just broke some news. All right, we're going to get some news very soon. Tune into his show, the Atlantic Zone Coverage podcast, to find out some exciting news.
There you go.
All right, a couple quick things I wanted to talk about here. So there was a story that came out from a few Manziel stories, and I know you love talking Manziel.
Love him.
So what came out via Manziel's agent is that 50% of the NFL has been contacting him, just checking in on Johnny.
Yes, it's true. I did catch that too. He hasn't even seen the field yet, but they just want to see how he's doing as far as his week-to-week regimen. Is he has there been any locker room issues, whatever the case may be?
Yeah.
So NFL teams are checking in on what's going on.
And it sounds like they're just passing along some positive feedback, saying he's doing exactly what he should be doing.
Yep.
He's right where he needs to be. So that's interesting. And another bit of Johnny news that I heard today is that it came out through a source that Montreal did contact Hamilton.
Yeah.
And sort of looked into a Manziel trade, and the price was said to be so astronomically high it wasn't even serious. So in other words, he was never available. Yeah, what they threw out there for a price was laughable, I'm sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Listen, the biggest news of every week is Ray and Andy released their CFL power rankings. Now, things went I think we interpreted this last week quite a bit different between the two of us. My goal this week was not to overreact too much, and And I think that maybe you did overreact a little bit, but that's a matter of opinion that you're going to get a chance to defend. So I'll run through mine super fast. Calgary stays at the top because they didn't do anything to fall off the top. I'm leaving Hamilton at number 2, Ray, because I saw the dominant Hamilton team. I saw them hold Saskatchewan to the 18 points, and they just couldn't get in the end zone, and I am chalking it up to just one of those games, and I will guarantee, I'm putting it right out there right now, next Thursday when we're in Hamilton, I am guaranteeing a victory for the Ticats.
Whoa.
Yeah, so you heard it here first, folks. So Hamilton stays at number 2. I'm moving Ottawa up from 5 to 3. They beat a terrible team. Montreal stinks, man. So I'm not overreacting to it, but I felt like they deserved a bit of a climb, especially with what Edmonton did in Toronto. So the Red Blacks at 3. I moved the Bombers up to 4 because they look really, really, really good with Nichols barely having to do anything, which moves Edmonton down to 5. And then we move on to what I've started calling this week the foursome of fail.
The foursome of fail.
The Argos, the Rough Riders, the Lions, and Alouettes. I had them in that order. I didn't want to move these teams too far, so I kind of set a maximum of 2 spots for them to move. So the Argos moved up to 6 with their victory. The Rough Riders moved from 9 up to 7 with their victory because, again, though I wasn't all that impressed and Chris Jones is crazy, they did win. They beat a good team. The Lions dropped down to 8. And the Montreal Alouettes are in last place this week because, man, Montreal stinks. Ray, do you want to walk us through your ratings?
Yeah, let's do it. I have got Calgary off the top. And you know what? They're 3-0. They haven't lost a game yet. How do you take that away from them? But they're heading to Ottawa this week. Number 1 spot is on the... it's up for battle this weekend. Mm-hmm. And I think they're more concerned about their Rays power rankings than they are about the actual CFL standings. So there you go. Stay tuned for that.
I doubt that, but yeah.
Ottawa, I've got it number 2 again. You've heard me talk about Ottawa already. I love Ottawa. I think it's Ottawa. Okay?
Yep.
Big surprising move here. I slid Winnipeg into the 3rd spot. Mm-hmm. I've been saying to watch them. Matt Nichols is back. Their defense is good. They've got home and home games with BC. They're now in BC this weekend coming up. Watch out for this team. This team could easily take over my number 2, maybe number 1 before the end of the year. Okay. So watch out for Winnipeg. I slid Hamilton down to 4th. Hamilton could have slid a lot more than that for me after their loss to Saskatchewan.
Okay.
The only reason why they're not is because it was in Saskatchewan.
Gotcha.
Okay. But they could have slid a lot more. Edmonton, I'm so disappointed in this team. You Eskimo fans, I don't know how you're not switching colors. I mean, this is embarrassing. All they talk about Mike Riley being the number 1 player in the CFL, not even close. He doesn't even look like a top 50 player right now.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Is that a reach?
Well, just keep going, Ray.
All right.
Keep going.
All right, now here we go into my basement. Saskatchewan has climbed out of the basement, the bottom of the basement. I've got them next. Then I've got Toronto. Toronto has moved up a spot as well after knocking off Edmonton. And then I got Montreal, BC. That was basically a coin flip. They both sucked to me. I flipped a coin. It ended up tails, and BC ended up in the basement.
Well, there's the power rankings, guys, and like I said, mine and Ray's lists are very, very different, which just shows how chaotic this particular season is.
I just have to add something here.
Sure.
I have to give a shout out to Gabo's nightclub. I have to give a shout out.
All right.
I may have said something inappropriate in my power rankings list, but make sure you read it. But I just want to let you know that you guys are going to want to know where I'm getting that from. The Winnipeg football officials, who you guys know who you are, and I know who you are, they're the ones that told me about Gabo's nightclub.
About Gabo's nightclub?
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, at least you got it from somewhere. All right. Let's talk some fantasy, Ray. I'm pretty excited to talk some fantasy because I destroyed last week. Now, again, our The Atlantic zone coverage, our buddy Greg, is still tearing things up, 437.3 points total. Our commissioner, Ray Perkin, just was horrible last week.
Horrendous.
Horrible. And I'm going to give you some weekly numbers in a second, but he's back down to 419.2, followed by Clint, Hotshot's friend, at 399.5, and I'm at 398.7. I moved into the fourth spot, and I am ready to go up to the top.
You're to the top.
Going all the way to the top. Hotshot, 353.6, absolutely fell off this week. I mean, Hotshot had a terrible week. Ray Dunn, 335.8. I mean, he didn't really fall off. He just doesn't have good weeks. Jeannie B down at 266.7. So, but let's talk.
Did Jeannie even put a team in last week?
I think so, yeah.
All right, okay.
I think she did.
Yeah, she did.
Now, let's see if we can get the weekly numbers.
She's going all in on Mike Riley. Every week, she's going all in on Mike Riley. And Jeannie, you're placing your money in the wrong places.
Yeah. Now, I had darn near 130 points, so I had my biggest week, though. I mean, it was far from the biggest. I also won in DraftKings again this week, Ray. That's 3 weekends in a row where I'm putting a DraftKings team in, and I'm winning. Not big money, but I'm finishing at least in the top 300 and getting about $12. $12 American back on a $4 buy-in or whatever. Like, what are you going to do? So the CFL is treating me good, man. Treating me good.
That's awesome.
All right.
That's going to pay for one of our dinners down there.
You got it.
All right.
You want to give us your lineup this week?
I really haven't solidified my lineup this week, but I will tell you that my lineup is going to be very heavy Ottawa Red Blacks, maybe a couple Stampeders, and it's definitely going to have the Winnipeg Blue Bombers featured as my defense.
Gotcha. All right, well, I'll give you my full lineup, though it's subject to change, and usually it always does. I'm going Bo Levi Mitchell as my quarterback against Ottawa.
He's going to have 6 picks.
They're coming off a bye week, and they're getting ready to stomp Ottawa at home. Andrew Harris at running back, and C.J. Gable's going to bounce back big.
Ooh, C.J. Gable.
Couldn't run the ball against Toronto in Toronto, but in Edmonton, he's going to get it done. Duke Williams of Edmonton is an absolute beast, and it's amazing how little he costs.
What's his name?
Duke or Dakil Williams, but they call him Duke Williams.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Duke Williams, yeah. Darius Bowman, I think, is finally going to get things going a little bit here with Winnipeg finally, because he's having a horrible year. Same as Arsenault for BC. I think maybe this is the week that he does something. And to be honest with you, Ray, the money just lines up because there's not a lot to choose from. And I'm taking the Eskimos defense against Toronto. I think they had Toronto figured out pretty good and just gave up a few scores. And I think when they're at home with all that noise, they're going to get it done.
Awesome. There you go.
That's how I feel about fantasy this week. Now let's pick some games.
All right.
Now I just want to really quickly give you the standings here. So Hotshot went 2-2 last week, so he's still killing it. He's at 12-4 at the top. I went 1-3, Ray.
Ooh, that's embarrassing.
So I'm 10-6 on the season. You went 2-2, right?
Yeah.
That gets you to 8-8, and we still have to check in with Jeannie, but I believe she's around 8-8 as well.
Yeah.
All right.
And don't forget, I've wasted 3 picks because I was fooling around about it. Hamilton. Just saying.
We've called it buffoonery, and there's nothing else to call it.
All right.
So acknowledge it for what it is. All right, let's take a quick look at the games coming up this week. The first
only 3 games.
Only 3 games, and the best one is Thursday night, Calgary at Ottawa. Why don't I ask you who you're taking here? Go ahead.
I'm going to go Ottawa all the way this one. They came out flat against Calgary in Calgary. They've got a lot of momentum going in their way right now. At home against Calgary, they want this game. They want to be the number 1 team, and I believe 100% that Trevor Harris wants to show that he is the elite quarterback in this league, and I agree. He's got to get out there and show it.
Gotcha. I'm taking Calgary coming off the bye. I think they're
bull.
ready. I think they're ready to go, and I think they're really going to crush a lot of Ottawa fans' hearts.
This is all BS.
Yeah, but, well, I guess we'll see. Toronto at Edmonton on Friday night. What do you got there?
I've got Edmonton in this game. And the best thing going in Toronto's favor?
What's that?
They'll probably have more fans in the Edmonton Stadium than they do in their home stadium.
Ouch.
Sorry, Argos fans. You guys are brutal.
I also have Edmonton bouncing back. And
we'll see you next week, too. We'll see you next week, Argo fans. We're going to be there, too.
I believe BC's in town when we're there, so that'll be interesting.
That should be a barn burner.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're gonna need a couple of beers to make it through that one potentially. So, and speaking of BC, Winnipeg is visiting BC for a big rematch. What do you got there?
Oh my goodness, Winnipeg's gonna roll them again. I think Matt Nichols, he's gonna have a second game under his belt. I expect big things for Winnipeg this weekend.
Fair enough. I also have Winnipeg. I also expect big things. So
are we 3 for 3 the same? Oh, no. You took Calgary. I took Ottawa.
I'm taking Calgary.
I took Edmonton. You took...
Edmonton. Yeah.
All right. So I only got one game I can catch this week.
Yeah.
All right.
And
okay.
you better hope Ottawa comes through for you.
It's a long season.
All right, guys. Well, that's it. We're looking forward to week 5. We want to thank Greg from Atlantic Zone Coverage for jumping on and
thanks, Greg,
and giving us the big tease on the news.
Congrats on your new podcast, too. Check it out, guys. Atlantic Zone Coverage.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. And remember, tune in, guys. He's going to be breaking some news soon. If you're listening to this as a podcast, please rate us and leave us a comment. We'd really appreciate it. If you're watching it on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe, even if they're nasty comments. We're good with all of that. Go check out our website, firstdownsportspodcast.com, where you can check out our power rankings and all the stuff that we do, even our local sports. We cover a lot of local sports as well. So if you're local to New Brunswick and you listen to us and you didn't know that, go check it out on our website.
Go check it out. And again, social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, we're all over the place.
Yep.
All right. Make sure you FDS us.
Have a good week, guys. We'll talk to you next week before we leave on our trip, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from us a lot while we're on it.
Go Red Black.